Hello, and welcome to another episode of Science and Sailing. I'm Josh, mate on the AJ Meerwald, and this is part 10 and the final part of the Watershed Miniseries. In this episode, let's explore more solutions to the three other major pollutants to watersheds. Those are oil, gas emissions, and fertilizer. One option in decreasing the amount of pollution generated by oil spills and carbon emissions is to use renewable resources such as wind, water, geothermal, and the sun in order to produce energy and power. These alternatives, as explained in our Resources mini-series, offer the advantage of generating clean energy from a resource that we cannot deplete, as opposed to harvesting non-sustainable, limited materials and producing pollution in its conversion to energy. So this translates to large-scale wind turbine or windmill farms, solar farms, and hydroelectric dams being built and used in place of things like coal, oil, and nuclear plants, or even used in conjunction with those plants. Unfortunately, the materials required to construct and build these solar panels, dams, and windmills are not renewable, and the construction process does create some pollution. So even these solutions are not perfect, but they might just be steps in the right direction, which is what we need. On a smaller scale, houses can be equipped with small wind turbines, solar panels. We can use things like electric or hybrid power tools in cars, which in the long run will not only save you money on utility or gas bills, but will also limit the amount of pollution being created. And on a personal level, we can do very simple things like carpooling, biking, and walking to work or to school, or making sure our oil isn't leaking out of our cars and into the streets and parking lots, or even just ensuring that we don't spill our gas onto the lawn when we're trying to fill up our lawnmowers. So these little actions, although small, add up and make a huge positive impact on our environment. In regards to fertilizers, there are many steps that can help establish an environmentally friendly lawn, garden, or farm. These steps will save farmers money by limiting the amount of nutrients wasted, while also protecting our watersheds from potential things like algal blooms. Consider the four rights: using the right amount of fertilizer, the right time of year, using the right method, and the right placement. All these things will diminish runoff. For example, use fertilizer slowly and not in excess, so that all fertilizer will be used up by the plants and not just laying around to be swept downstream later. Also, fertilizer can be buried 4 to 6 inches beneath the surface so that it doesn't wash away as soon as it rains. Frozen ground cannot efficiently absorb fertilizer and should never have fertilizer applied to it. It's suggested that we test our soil prior to fertilizing it so that we can better follow the fertilizer mixing instructions. Always read the instructions. If fertilizer is spilled outside of a planted area, as you could guess, we should probably clean it up. And only till the fields when it's necessary, so that we can actually limit soil compaction and erosion. Another thing we can do is not blow or sweep fertilized grass or crop clippings into the streets or outside planted areas, because they still contain active fertilizer and chemicals which will end up in our waterways. Another important practice in the creation of environmentally friendly farms is using barriers, buffer zones, and retainment catches, so that fertilizer doesn't run into the streets or the waterways when it rains or when plants are watered. So planted buffers along field edges or water bodies, things like grasses, trees, and shrubs, those plants are going to absorb and filter out nutrients before they can make it into the streams or rivers. Fences can inhibit livestock from accessing these rivers and streams, where they might actually graze and eat up all these plant-based buffers, And they're animals, so of course they're going to poop or defecate and add to the amount of manure entering the water. And during the off season, when the crops are dead and fields are barren, farmers could have planted intermediary species so that the fields are never bare, and that's going to limit erosion. So doing any of these steps is going to help protect our watersheds, but the more of these practices that we can put into place, the better the effect will be in preventing algal blooms and pollution in our watersheds. Now, as adults, we can all do better at becoming active in our local legislation, government, environmental, and educational organizations so that we have a voice in the impact that pollution has on our watersheds. Can you think of any other ways to prevent pollution? What are some everyday steps that we can take at home to make our planet cleaner? This has been Josh, bringing the Bayshore to you.